Thank you, sir. We'd go ahead and call to order this special meeting of the Henderson County Board of Education on October 26, 2021. The first item on this agenda would be to approve the minutes from the prior meeting. We all received those minutes from the regularly scheduled October board meeting. If there's not any questions or concerns about the minutes as presented, I'd entertain a motion that we accept the minutes as presented. Have a motion for Mr. Alvis. Have a second for Mr. Haynes. All those in favor signify by saying aye, please. Aye, vote unanimous. Minutes are approved. Next item would be strategic planning process. Main reason we're here. So Dr. Lawson and Ms. Ashby. Okay, see you. Thank you. It's all y'all's.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to adjust this a little bit. Am I pretty loud? Move it down some, maybe. About now, is that better? A little better? All right, so tonight's our first work session for our strategic planning process. So it's an exciting time because we're going to begin to plan the next 5 years for Henderson County Schools. So I thought it'd be a good time to kind of walk back and see where we were and how this has come about. I think Ms. Stanley, when announced her retirement in January, February, she made some type of announcement to the board that she was going to retire. And one of the reasons she said she was going to retire at that time was it was time for Henderson County Schools to begin its next strategic plan. And she said, as superintendent, she knew she would not stay throughout that whole plan. And so she thought it was one of the responsible things to do was to go ahead and prompt the board in a superintendent search. That way that the new superintendent could begin that strategic planning process with all of you. Of course, you know, in March of that year, that's when COVID hit. And so this has been a little bit of a process that we have pushed back because we wanted to get it right. And Ms. Stanley wanted us to get it right. I know you all want to get it right. And now we have relevant data. Just recently, we got our most recent assessment data, and we've all had a chance to review that. And so it's a great time for us to look at kind of where we are now and where we'd like to be in the next 5 years, making incremental gains and around the very same questions that were asked at our last strategic plan. Many of us at the central office level were principals when Ms. Stanley became superintendent in 2014. And what was really important to her and that whole group, Ms. Gibson and Mr. Steiner and many of those that have kind of retired, was that we were a built-to-last organization and that we would have core values that guided our behaviors. And we would have strategic plans that were put in place around foundational values, and that we could be a school district that continued its momentum. And that's our goal here. So you'll see as we go through this strategic planning slideshow that we're asking the same questions that we asked, I guess that's probably 7 years ago now. Because we want to go back to what makes us who we are and be able to reflect on that long enough to look towards the future. And those are the parts that really makes Henderson County Schools a strong school district, that we're able to do that. So you all well know this is my first time going through this, and right now it's a busy time because we're hopefully finishing up the facilities plan sometime soon here, but we're doing facilities planning. We're doing our school improvement and district improvement plans right now, and then we are doing our strategic plan. So it's heavy planning for Henderson County Schools right now. And we're really fortunate that we acquired Studer Education to help us facilitate this process. Although I've been part of it as a participant, not as the leader. And because of where we are in our school district, we acquired Studer. I appreciate the board doing that. They are very well versed. They're a very reputable organization that has great knowledge of leading these processes. And we hit the jackpot in terms of who we got to help lead us through this process. I'll introduce her in just a second, but Dr. Ashby is the retired superintendent of Hopkins County Schools. and she'll tell you more about herself. But what makes it really special is she's a retired superintendent, had worked with her board, and did a lot of great things in her school district. So she understands what it's about. She's a teacher, principal, all those parts. So she has a very good working knowledge of how a school business works. And then also that she has a knowledge of Henderson and has a great respect for Henderson. When we talked initially, she, we are neighboring counties, and her and Ms. Stanley and others throughout this region have very good relationships and a very high respect for one another, and so she has a great respect for our district. And so I wanted just to bring in Dr. Ashby to kind of kick us off here and get us going.
Thank you so much. I'm just Dee Dee, and I'm very glad to be here. I did have the pleasure of working with Morgana Stanley for many years in different roles, and Miss Gibson and so I have a lot of different friends that are here now that we've kind of traded employees back and forth, and we've been to ball games together and different things. But I'm also very pleased to get to work with Dr. Lawson. I worked with him when we were going through COVID last year, and he was in several groups that I was in where we Zoomed, it seemed like all the time, right? And so we got to know each other very well. And so I'm just excited to be here and look forward to the opportunity to get to know you. So I'd like to find out exactly who all is in the room. And I know this is kind of different in a work session, but if everybody could just go around and introduce themselves, because I know there's quite a few of you that I have not met. So Dr. Lawson, you want to just go around this way? Would that be good?
Mike Waller, board member.
To meet you. Good to see you.
I was the principal, and I'm the new director of accountability assessment. Yes, I'm just the same principal. I'm a new role now.
Very good.
Chris Mays, director of special education.
Very good.
Casey Farmer will VPP.
Okay. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Very good. Nice to meet you. Absolutely. And I know we have somebody who's just joined us. Oh, no, you're fine. Nice to meet you. This seems really loud to me, like an echo, so I'm trying to talk very softly. So if I'm too loud, y'all tell somebody. Oh, is that what it is? Okay. So maybe I'll just pin it down here somewhere. How about that? I probably can talk loud enough, but I know because it's being recorded, I need to wear the mic, right? Okay. All right. Well, I'm so glad to be here. I've served as superintendent in Hopkins County for 5 years. 4 of the years that I was there, we actually partnered with Studer Education. We joined with them because we did not have a strategic plan. And as you talked about doing a lot of heavy lifting through these processes, we felt like that it was better to have an outside consultant come in with eyes on that for us. We partnered with, our coach was actually Nanette Johnston, who many of you all know and is retired superintendent from Hardin County, Superintendent of the Year. And then she also now works with KASA, Kentucky Association of School Administrators. So she still works with Studer and still helps with teaching me a lot of things. I think she'll always be my mentor. So I served as an elementary principal for 7 years at Hanson, and I was a high school principal at Madisonville North for 4 years. So kind of a variety of backgrounds. I can tell you that I really didn't retire. I was only out about 12 days, so I really, I guess, repurposed myself. And I'm not a salesperson. I'm not a consultant. I'm a leader coach. I work with superintendents. I work with principals and directors, really just on building leadership capacity, strategic planning. So that's really who I am. And if I didn't believe in this organization and what we can do with schools and, you know, things that impact communities and especially our children, then I wouldn't be doing it. So I'm really glad to be here tonight. And so I'm just going to tell you just a little bit about Studer Education. I know that you all have heard some of this before, but maybe not everybody. But I'm just going to kind of go through this pretty quickly because I know that Ms. Stanley worked with you all through this as well. But we do work with mostly K-12 organizations and across the United States. And so when we do surveys and different things, we're not compared to just other schools in Kentucky, but we are compared with schools across the U.S. So that gives us just a broader perspective of where we are and how we're doing with things. We also work with higher education and other organizations. To me, the most important thing on who we are as coaches is that this bottom line, most of the coaches that I work with are retired superintendents or former superintendents. And I work with superintendents from New York all the way to California. So it makes it nice because we get to learn a lot outside our boundaries. And it's been very, very interesting to me, and we share strategies with one another. And so I think that that's just very beneficial for us. We do deal with strategic planning, leadership training. We have surveys that I'll go over in just a little bit, and then a lot of coaching support for our principals and directors. As a board member, I know when I was superintendent, one of the first questions I would get is, who are other people in Kentucky that you're working with? You know, how do we know that you're, you know, worth the money we're investing? Well, here's a list of the people that we are currently working with. Warren County was the first district in Kentucky to sign with Studer back in 2016, and they are still a partner, what we call a next level partner. Christian County, Hardin County, and Hopkins, all on multiple contracts because they felt like what we were doing was beneficial, and so they've continued on. But you can just see there a little bit about who else is on this journey with us. Even though we're working with different districts, I really want to stress to you that it is not cookie cutter, one size does not fit all. I only work about 30 hours, which really means 40, but as we know. But I only have about 6 districts that I'm working with. And every district that I work with is different. Not everybody needs the same thing. Not everybody's on the same page of music. So everywhere we go, it's really based on what your needs are and where your kids are and what you need us to do. We meet you where we are, where you are. And of course, it's all about the kids. And again, Dr. Lawson has been wonderful. We've met a number of times in his office and just really talked about Henderson County, the past, and it's very important that he shared with me that Henderson County wants to honor the past with what you've done with strategic planning as we build the future. And that has really been emphasized to me, and that's how we have designed the work for tonight. So how do we do these things? Every month, we will have a call with Dr. Lawson, and as it's been, because I'm so close, geographically, I've just come over and we've just sat down in his office for about an hour and just talked about things and how we progress forward. We have on-site visits and virtual coaching. I'll be meeting with principals in November to have a very similar session with them. I know that last year you all had some leadership training with Studer with a different coach. And then we have national conferences and different things that are always offered as part of being a partner. And then we have our survey tools, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit greater detail in just a second. But what is strategic planning? And it's that bottom line really is what it's all about. It's about defining success 5 years from now and how we're going to get there. So you all already have a current strategic plan in place. So we're just going back to revisit that to see, is that the same plan that we need? How do we want to modify it as we move forward for the next 5 years? So we're going to tweak it, or we may overhaul it. Whatever we need to do will be decided by you all. And I can tell you that through the strategic planning, it begins with the board and it ends with the board. So the information that we gain from you all tonight kind of lays the foundation. And then we'll work with different groups, and I'll go through that in just a second, but then it'll come back to you all for final approval and final discussion, and it'll be in a very similar process through a work session. This is just an example of what a strategic plan looks like, and so for the educators in the room, this is certainly not a comprehensive district improvement plan. It is not this thick. It doesn't lay on a shelf until we do our I&I checks. This is usually just a 1 or 2 page simple document that most administrators will have on their desk that they can reference, helping us to keep our eye on the ball as we move that ball down the field. So you'll have pillars, which you all have already built into your plan, so everybody's plan looks a little different. We also will work with you on a scorecard, and this is a very simple process where we just will build, based on your strategic plan, what are our actions of how are we going to reach our goals, how are we going to monitor that, and so different from maybe what we've done with the CDIP or the CDIP, Dr. Lawson will work with his directors, and we'll meet with them probably about every 60 days to talk about where are we with our strategic plan, and are we meeting the goals, and then we'll have those measurable results which work up to the pillars. So you can see in this one, student achievement, service, people, finance, other. Those are just examples. You already have established those, and we'll revisit those tonight. This, to me, as a superintendent, was one of the most important things that we did, and it's our survey system. So in November, through the Kentucky Department of Ed, all certified employees will be asked their opinion about how we're doing as a school district. That happens every 2 years. With Studer, we start at the district level first. We have the direct reports like the principals, assistant principals, guidance counselors to complete a survey on how are we doing as district leaders. How are we doing with an attitude, accessibility, accuracy, timeliness, quality of service that we're providing to our schools. It's important to start there first. Then those results are shared with all of the directors, and then they come up with some strategic steps about how to improve customer service. How do we continue to improve the service that we offer to our schools and the supports that we have? We also will then move into an employee engagement survey. We survey all certified and classified because we feel everybody has a voice and that voice needs to be heard. We usually do that twice a year, once in the fall and once in the spring. And Dr. Lawson has examples of those surveys, and we'll be examining those and seeing when is the best time that we implement those. We also provide a survey to all parents, and then all of those results can be compared nationally to other districts that we work with across the United States. But again, the real important part of those surveys are what you do with them. It's looking at those results and coming up with a plan for improvement. And I, as a superintendent, felt like that was one of the best things that we did. We also have a survey that we use with students. You can survey students from 3rd grade up. That's really a district decision about how you want to roll with that. But we usually give our parent and our employee surveys twice a year. Again, working together to create a strong future for our students. So, here we go with the strategic planning process. And this is where we really worked hard to make sure that we are honoring the past as we're building the future with you all. During the process, we're starting with you all tonight. We'll have what we call the discovery session. We'll ask you a series of 5 questions. We'll get your feedback, then we'll collect that. Then in November, we will also meet with all directors and principals. We'll do something very, very similar with them. Again, your information that you share with us tonight will be the foundation, and then we'll just continue to build on that. We'll also have a group of parents that we meet with, a group of certified staff, classified staff, and then a group of community leaders. We want to make sure we give every stakeholder a voice. Now, once we collect all that data, we will have a steering committee, and there will be a board member that will serve on that committee, and we will work through trying to see what are the themes. What are we hearing from all the people that are involved? What's really kind of moving to the top that we really need to focus our attention on? After we get that information gathered, we will then put it in a survey that will be put on your Facebook, on your school, on the district and school websites, and give absolutely everybody an opportunity to weigh in. We will also talk with students through this process. We don't want anybody to feel like that they didn't have a voice. So that survey then will be one final check that we will use to make sure we're on the right track. We will also then use the surveys that we have and any other reports that are available through the district to formulate that plan, and then we will bring that draft back to the board, and you all will work on that and decide, is this what we want? Is this the final product? Is there any changes we want to make? Hopefully we will complete all of that work by April, and you will be ready to then approve the final draft in May, and Dr. Lawson will be ready to launch that for the next school year. Is that correct? Okay. So, Dr. Lawson, do you want to explain to them about the groups and how we're gonna roll with this part?
At your tables there is a large self-stick pad, almost like a large oversized Post-it note. And so what we want to do is have a good conversation about and using these questions as our guide. And as we do that, each group will need, you can write on it yourself, but what typically works best is for each group to maybe have somebody that writes it down and gives feedback and kind of makes a list. You can do that like brainstorming words that are important to you or statements and just kind of get that all on there. It's important that you put, so this is group 1 over here, and this is group 2 over here. So you'll need to make sure on the top of your self-stick note that it says your group number and the question number. And so we'll just have a conversation, and this is just a brainstorm session around these questions, and put all your thoughts, get them all on there, and then like she said, that'll tend to serve as the base, and then we'll start to kind of drill it down from there.
So following along with your current plan, the question is, what does it mean when you say Henderson County Schools will prepare all students to be post-secondary ready? So that's the plan that you've had for the past 5 years. So it's up to you to look at that and say, if we already achieved this, is this the same direction we want to move in? We're just starting with this because this is what you currently have. So every question you see tonight will be based on the plan that's in place. It's up to you to decide moving forward what that's going to look like. But again, very important, when Dr. Lawson and I talked, that we really wanted to start with where you are right now as we build that future.
Really important that we, in terms of moving this school district as far as it can go, to be able to embrace what we've always done and improve upon it, that is key. And so one of the things I just want to clarify, in education, we change names of things sometimes after a little bit of time. And so it says to make students post-secondary ready. What do we used to call this? College and career ready. That's what we used to call it. And so to put it in more simple terms, how do we prepare all of our students past high school? Just think of it in those terms. How does Henderson County Schools prepare all students in their life past high school and their next steps too, in their education and in their life? Did you hear Ms. Travis? Okay. Ready to get started?
We're ready.
Okay. If each group would kind of get somebody to either volunteer or appointed by the other group members to kind of get started on writing. If you all want to get up, move around, talk just a little bit. There's waters over here. Dr. Ashby, how much time will we spend on this first question?
Well, I think, 10 minutes. We can do that in 10 minutes. If not, then as long as it takes. I'm here all night, so whatever you all want to do.
Okay.
Is that good?
That sounds good. Let's come back together after about 10 minutes and we'll talk about it, see if we need more time.
it now. They've changed it. It's not post-secondary. It's transition ready.
I thought it went college and career, then transition, now post-secondary.
But they've changed it. Let me look. I'll look it up. They've changed it. Yes, sir. And for some reason, that through the whole, probably when the career cruising was not paid for by the longer. And that was a big platform. Then it was left in districts to create their own computers now. I would assume that, because that's about the time that there wasn't any platforms out there for recruiting. It was extremely expensive. Been down there multiple times. As adults, we can want one all day long. We had bring back Henderson. Finally, we have a lot of kids that are high. You can offer through Project Lead the Way, they have biomedical.
All right, so obviously this pillar is about student achievement and teaching and learning. So this is probably one of our biggest pillars, and I'm sure this is something we're going to come back and revisit as we continue to progress through this. So I think it's important that we share out to hear from each group. So however you all want to take turns or however you want to do it, but let's start with this group.
So, at the core of this was 100% graduation rate.
Okay, let me stop you. Can everybody hear? Okay.
Then, of course, proficiency in the core, reading, writing, math. Building the better graduate characteristics that we want every kid to possess those and show those before they leave us. We're ready for what path that they choose, so college, career, trade skills, and making sure we have that strong CTE program for those. Students know how to prepare, study, they're competent with technology. Students are grounded in their social emotional learning. They can successfully, in a healthy way, manage their mental health. So those are kind of our core.
Okay, very good. Certainly after COVID, mental health is whole nother thing now, right? Social and emotional learning. Okay, this group.
Yes, ma'am. So, we had a discussion about, in order for us to really get our students ready for that next stage, we have to know what it is they want to do.
Mhm.
And so really having those conversations and really asking individual students, what would you like to do when you graduate high school? And getting their interests, and so we know what we need to do to help them on that path. Talked about soft skills, just interacting with others professionally, communication, talked about building a better grad, all those components that we want all of our students to be able to do as they leave our school system. And then just make sure they're life ready, whatever that looks like for them. If they're going to technical school, straight to the workforce, college, military, whatever that may be, that they are ready for that next step.
Okay, all right, very good. Dr. Lawson, any comments you want to make about that?
That's a broad statement. Education is a challenge. We know education is a great catalyst, and so we're all very passionate about it. Many of us, we know what it means to get to education, gives kids a better chance in life, and that's why people become school board members, because they want to be part of that, and that's why people go become school teachers, educators, and administrators. So it's really good to hear all those. Some of the things that I hear is that we have to do a really good job of connecting with our students to see what it is they want to do, and having some processes in place too, where they learn about those professions from relevant experience, and if they know what their demand for some of those jobs might be. One of the things that Mr. Waller was passionate about was helping build flexible pathways for all of these kids. That makes our community better, right? When they have gainful employment, we all want that for our kids at the end of the day. And then Mr. Al was talking about, we just kind of rehashed the operation preparation, ways we can connect. And I think we may have a question here about that. We can do that. And Ms. Carter brought up a really good point about, we kind of got around to building a better graduate, but how kind of this technical side of whatever it is we have to do. Then there are those other soft skills, we call them, that are really kind of the egg in the cake. It holds it all together. And that glue that the kids got to have, how important that is. When I think about when we created core values, building a community where character matters, and kind of putting our money where our mouth is there, having strong character building programs, having that building a better graduate be a part of it. It's a little bit more difficult to measure than maybe a test score is, but just how important and I've got some good notes here, so all these are very, very good. I think we've got a good base for question one.
Okay, very good. All right, question 2. How will Henderson County Schools create future-ready leaders, defining Henderson County as a community with the highest level of integrity and innovation? So this is a bit of an innovation pillar, I would say, and also with your community involved.
As I read this one, I go back and think about when we were making the core values was integrity. We kind of kept coming back to integrity and having character. Can I turn this on? Go back. So as we revisit our old strategic plan, but really our core values coming back up to the surface here, we talked about how important integrity was and how important it was to build kids' character right alongside their academics. And so when I think about this, how this goes hand in hand, having high integrity and being innovative really helps a community grow. Think about it in terms if you are an industry. You want folks who have high integrity and that can problem solve, and they're innovative. And so that's kind of the lens I'm looking through on this one. And so you all may have a different interpretation of that one, is how do we develop that in the school system within our kids so that when they graduate, our community has those kind of people in it, and it helps to keep our community strong, our economy strong, healthy lives, healthy living, healthy families, that kind of thing. Am I way out there in left field? I'm getting some blank stares. Okay.
I think it's whatever you want to make it. It's your opportunity.
Maybe wouldn't be that, I mean, the problem, the skills are is key. So I'm thinking like, so when we get to, when we're trying to solve a problem in our make sure people learn a long time ago, they first understand time, win-win, synergize, we're all better together, guys. Figure out a way for us all, those are, those investments early will pay dividends to the leaders, and they're leading in those ways.
Where did you leave off with the Hackman equation? You know, Dr. Hackman, he came and talked about economic imbalance. He gave an economic indicator. I haven't heard about that. The Hackman equation. Remember the professor who came? He's an economist.
Ready to share out? Okay.
Know about our community, what's available. About the need for character education, that those are lifelong skills that can not just in classroom, but also throughout the extra. Football, I mean, there are times that it was no tax. Can learn so much from those two. Just social emotional learning, teaching that early on, that, that's huge.
We know that our attendance rates are better when our kids are involved in extracurricular or co-curricular activities, obviously. So, all right, Cheryl?
You said that this
Okay, so our third question, how will Henderson County Schools ensure a strong financial structure that guarantees excellence through creativity and innovation? So there's innovation again. It's a popular word through this. And this is looking at our financial structure, dealing with some of your operations.
So, obviously, we'd always want to have a strong financial structure, and many of you all have been around to really provide us a strong financial structure. We're in a far better position financially today because of the sacrifices that folks made 7 years ago. And so, and being disciplined in our finances to make sure that we are good stewards of that. And then we've also embraced innovation. And so oftentimes in Henderson County Schools, we'd say something like, what is it that would never change, that we'd always do? And what is it that is always up for debate in terms of how we do it? And so we would always want to have a strong financial structure. And where would we try to innovate to continue to have a strong financial structure moving towards 2022 and 2023 and 2024 and 2025? What are the places we can be innovative to continue to have that strong financial structure so when we need to make moves, i.e. being a district is one-to-one across the board, needing to make those kind of moves, that we have the financial structure to do it, or in terms of building schools or programs. When we talk about having flexible career pathways, with each of those would come a considerable cost, right? So we want to be able to make those moves should there be a need in the community, should there be a want on part of the child and the families and parts of that stroke. So we always want to have that strong financial structure and always looking for innovative ways to continue to ensure our financial success. That's our resource engine. That's what makes it go, right? We know that through our taxes and through our enrollment, that's how we're funded. And so we always want to be innovative there in how we kind of protect that, and we use that money and those resources to forward the mission.
differences were like DuPont Manual, the number one high school in the state. Well, they have a very active alumni association. School students from their there has there been any talk about foundation for the district? Like, I'm not gonna get in the weeds, but it's like a dissertation topic that I've been really curious about. So, but if you think about, what was it, Commissioner Cody, if you go back and look at the funding at the state level, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation had a huge influence on Kentucky education just by the amount of money that they brought to the Commonwealth. And Kentucky was one of those most contributed to states from their foundation. But my idea is that like a couple of cents from every lottery ticket go back to the county where the ticket was bought. So like there are seven community foundations that cover all of Kentucky. So we're with the West Kentucky Cooperative Foundation out of Paducah. But we have a local community foundation board here, and it has over $1.5 million in assets. So those are just my role here as a board member, not as a but just throwing like have those ideas that you talked about.
I would think that would be a huge hit here, especially with having, that's one thing that we were always jealous of, is that you had one high school, all roads would, you know, to the one high school. Makes me kind of think about what you used to do there.
5%. So if your goal is 1,000, we're asking you to raise 1,100 to put $100 back and make your PTA like a nonprofit. Just ideas.
A moment of silence there. Both sides. First. Everybody here want to know.
Little bit.
And also taking 3 cents of every lottery ticket. So.
Good job.
I've been tossing around a PhD program looking at school financing. So my idea is that lottery proceeds go to the Keys Fund, which is well established already. But if 3 cents or just 1 penny of every lottery ticket that was bought in a specific county goes back to that county in a perpetual fund. You know, you never touch the balance of it. And I was talking about the community foundation model. We could have it's bigger than just us, but those pennies, I had a college professor who once said, if you watch your pennies, nickels, dimes, and quarters, you never have to worry about the dollars. So it's just an idea that I've had for a while.
Dream
But-
big, right?
Yeah, but we're living in a post-COVID world, so, or close to it. This is the time that's right to make innovative changes. It's the time to rethink the school day. It's time to rethink what the needs of students are and what the needs of our employees are. Like, it's rough out there in the classroom right now.
But talk really loud for me.
So, we, talked about in the general fund, jokingly, but also in a serious manner. And in doing so, talked about just taking advantage of collect that information. And the nickel tax was really crucial in providing us with some additional money, talking about attendance rate, that's important. We've been doing a study of our energy rates and making some changes there, that way we start saving money there. We're just evaluating the current systems that we have in our building. And it's about that, you know, equipment, we've got industry, the way we do it here to skills to that brings. Good point here, someone mentioned about collaborating with other districts and how they're saving money. What are they doing differently than we might have thought about? Term impacts of things we're purchasing, one of the things that this is up front, it's about the long-term impact.
Okay, so our next question is, how will Henderson County schools seamlessly partner with family and community organizations through targeted outreach and engagement? Do you want to make comments about that?
Yes, ma'am. I think the origin of this one is that we're all very connected in Henderson. That we have genuine relationships at the foundation of everything we do, that we really care about families. Many of us have children in the school district or spouses or have had grandchildren or presently have grandchildren in the school district, have our own children here. It's just important that we know how strong it is when schools and families work together. It provides success for the kid, that, we're closing up those gaps, how important that is. And then we're fortunate here that we have one school system in one town. And our community partners are highly supportive of us. And so we have a lot of great community partners that also help maybe fill in needs that as a school district, it would be more of a challenge for us to meet. And so continuing those partnerships and keeping those healthy as we move forward, certainly one of our values.
Have a, called AKZ, it's all the kids on right. One thing that we're doing there in our monthly board meeting.
Great discussion. All right, question 5. How will Henderson County Schools sustain an exemplary staff by creating a dynamic, driven, and compassionate culture?
I think this one speaks for itself, but we know our people are what makes this school district go. And so how do we get the best people, and how do we take care of them, and we all work together to move the school district forward? I'm just want to mention that, so the idea of having a team, an exemplary staff, and continue to develop them. Of course, we know we got to recruit and retain them, but development of a staff is so key. And as she mentioned, there's a shortage. There's a shortage of every kind of worker, it seems. All we have to do is drive down the highway, and what does every business has a sign out front, and what does it always say? Help wanted. And sign-on bonuses, all kinds of different things that they may be advertising. And those folks, while it's meaningful what they're doing, they're not educating kids. We have the most important job. We are what kids get in their time in the school system changes the trajectory of their lives and their families' lives for generations to come. So our job is vitally important. So being able to attract and retain the very best people is of the highest priority, and being able to develop them in a way. And so we'll begin more talks about how we work in our professional development, but that's just key. And so getting those people, and we talk about being dynamic, when the field of education, the only thing that stays the same is that it's constant change. And so getting folks who buy into that are dynamic teachers, dynamic leaders, that they're open to that, and they're okay with that, and in fact, they embrace it. And then to be driven, to be folks who want to see us be the absolute best. And that if they do, we're talking about dynamic and driven people, they are self-motivated. That we have to be able to have those kinds of people that are absolutely in our doors, partly because we're a fantastic employer, but more of they are purposeful people. And they're showing up for a reason. They're giving their lives to something. And then on the other part is having a culture where we care, where we have high standards, but where we also have a very high level of care. So just wanted to kind of talk about that for just a second.
Young teachers. So my example would be like UPS does really hardcore recruiting, and they have discounted housing for their employees. So their employees work like about, there's like 3 or 4 apartment complexes that they have. And then I read about like San Francisco, it's such a high cost of living, so there's just housing dedicated for employees that work in their schools. And I know that, yeah, I mean, you think about if you are a first year teacher or if you are a second career teacher, which we're seeing a lot more of, you think about what financial obstacles. If you are a first year teacher, a single parent, just how $40,000 on a first year teacher salary just doesn't go that far.
More than competitive.
I don't
We
know.
need to be the highest paid employer in Western Kentucky.
I think so too. We need to be,
Some places
selling. The kind of dynamic people that we're talking about. And I think the salaries, the benefits, we can be the highest paid, but there's other things that we have to give. Talk about kids come out of college, what do they have? Somehow or another, we help them with loans. Part of our budget is
Yeah, what way?
to help them with.
Well, I'll just say it, because I'm sitting here with my board member hat on, not my educator, but if I was a high school student,
I'm married. And don't get me wrong,
I would think
comments,
some, I mean,
do we need more?
it's not school like it was in the
We have younger kids.
the reason I became a teacher.
Talking
I would
about
pick
the
something
teachers
that,
that have younger kids, there's good preschool
do we
programs
offer,
or daycare programs. Do we need to
I'm
start our own?
just thinking out loud, like,
And I know
we
we
offer
have
any
one
kind
for
of
preschool.
computer programming for
The world's right
kids
here.
or boot camp
There's still
clubs
other
where
daycare programs that need to be
teachers
offered.
are learning
We've
another
got
skill,
to
so
give
when they do
these folks
retire,
what
they
is
felt
gonna
like
attract them.
the
One, it's
organization
gonna be salary. Two,
contributed
it's
to
gonna
the
be
whole
benefits.
person.
But what are the benefits?
That
Our benefits have to be more than just
if I retired
health,
and had a second career, I'd get something
life
in computer
insurance,
programming.
medical insurance.
But I would love to get that
It's
kind
gotta be,
of
it's gotta be
training
what's gonna attract
available
the
to me, those
movers and shakers.
transferable
Movers
skills.
and shakers may need daycare programs, may need help with their college loans. We gotta get the minority of people in here What is gonna attract them? 7 to 8% of our students are, we've gotta find out what is gonna attract them.
You were talking about, paying for student loans, but also possibly paying for graduate.
Yes, that too, yeah, all that stuff.
One thing, when we go to larger areas to recruit, if they are not familiar with Henderson, something we need, it's not just about the school system that it's right now, they need to know about our community. And so that goes back to our previous question. We've got minority candidates before, and they'll be here for a year or so, but they need a community that is engaging and supportive, and they want to be part of it.
Yeah, I know.
I wanted to phrase that in such a way.
The retention piece too is a huge piece in terms that we're gonna grow you professionally. When I was at the high school, I always told every single teacher I hire, I can promise you one thing, you will be a better teacher by the end of this year than you are today. Whether you are renewed or not renewed by your choice or my choice, I can guarantee you, at the end of the year, you're gonna be a better teacher. Because that's our goal. And they are. Some of the worst teachers I ever saw in my entire life were better in a year because we are making an investment. And if we're gonna invest into them, we're going to grow them professionally. And so through our professional growth system and things and the mentoring and the really good job that our principals and instructional coaches do and to help them grow professionally, it benefits them, which benefits us. And what they see is you can put a lot of monetary value out there. When you're making $20,000, a $5,000 raise is good. It's awesome. Even if you're making $90,000, but let's say you're making $80,000 and it's a $1,000 raise, but you have a really good professional growth system and you feel that number one, you're valued, you're growing professionally. You're not going to move for $1,500 to Davis County. You're going to stay right where you're at. So looking at the non-tangibles of professional growth with our people, I think it is big too. I've been in a district to where the 24 hours, good luck, go find them. They weren't provided, they weren't prescribed. You had your input, but there wasn't a high expectation.
I think our HTIP program, we did away with the state program for the HTIP for our new teachers. I think that's huge in supporting them and helping.
It takes a lot of money to find out it's teachers, no matter what.
Yeah, it was at HTIP, there was a KTIP program to support new teachers funded by the state. When the state budgets changed, they no longer had that available. Henderson County Schools kept something, it's called HTIP to support new teachers. Of course, that hits the general fund, but it's important.
Do really well to recruit and keep our people, is just continue professional learning. Done in a while, even for our veteran teachers. So I think that's
It's continued embedded.
And so we talked about just expanding our recruitment. Yes. Okay. Also, we have an employee wellness program, deals primarily with mental health to support our employees. Just our employee surveys and taking that data to make improvements, based on the results that we get. We have to have more than a competitive salary to areas around us and track those great dynamic people. And to help us with that, we are currently undergoing an Hanover study for our certified staff. We did the classified staff, I believe, last year. Now we're doing certified. And we had a great discussion about, really thinking about what can we do to attract those people that we want here and we want to keep, and helping them with benefits and salary, and also brought up, maybe helping them pay some college loans. I mean, that's hard when, you graduate college and you're out there on your own and you have a, an apartment, monthly bill and all that stuff, and so possibly daycare, that was also mentioned, childcare. Just what can we do to attract those great people that we want here in our school system? And then once we attract them, to keep in mind that, and they may be from a total different place, and the community here may not be like what they're used to. And so having those community relationships to keep them here, to make them feel like they're a part of Henderson County, as well as our school system. We, do a great job of investing and growing them professionally. We do continued embedded professional learning to, keep our people and keep them learning. Several years back, we had a K-TIP program for the state of Kentucky, but that was no longer funded. So then we found a way to do an H-TIP program, which is our own Henderson County K-TIP program. We're mentoring our new teachers. I think that's pretty much it.
Wow, that's great.
One thing that came to mind, I'm sorry, was putting professional development towards classified staff too. So like when I first started as director, we would send teachers all the time to professional development. In the Behavior Institute of Louisville, I offered for our behavior program assistants to go, and they were like so appreciative. They never got to go to a professional development before, and they felt, honored that they got to go. And anytime we do like our PLCs after school, if a program assistant say, I will pay them that extra hour.
That's wonderful.
And they come and they love coming, but just putting professional development towards them, we don't pay them hardly anything. I mean, so just investing in them and making them feel like a professional too, I feel like has kept some of our really good ones.
Well, you all have had great ideas tonight. You really have. You've done just a lot of work on this. So as we collect all this information, it's going to be typed up at the central office and then shared out, Dr. Lawson, I'm assuming with everybody that's here tonight, and then this will lay a foundation for us to build on. I think as we sift through this with our steering committee, one of the big things that we have to remember is that 80% of our daily activities keep everything running, keep everything, efficient, and, school buses are rolling, food's being served, teachers are teaching. It's just the things to keep things going. But strategically, when we look at our plan, we want to focus on the 20% of what we do each day that's going to move us forward. Move us continually to be that employer of choice, the best place for teaching and learning, the best place where our communities are plugged in, and we have all kinds of resources to meet our families where they are. And certainly all of this has changed since COVID. So I want to applaud you for what a great job you've done tonight. We'll certainly be back to the table with you again to continue these discussions. We'll now move into our other focus groups and hear from other people who are invested in our school system. So great job, A+. I hope that this was good visioning for you, and it'll get your wheels turning about where we want to be and what that's going to look like 5 years from now. Dr. Lawson.
Everybody's time. I know that you're busy with your family, that you have much to do. So I appreciate you taking time to look at this thing from 30,000 feet and put all this stuff on paper. So this will be a good base for all our next meetings, and we'll be in touch about next steps. Anything else?
Make a motion that we adjourn this meeting. Look for a second. Have a second from Ms. Williams. All those in favor signify by saying aye, please. Aye, vote unanimous. We adjourn. You can stick around and talk, but
Thank you.
Sally's got supper on the table.